It's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Be the Man. And of course, we couldn't do it without the greatest of all time, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Rick, how are you, man?
I'm great, young man. How are you?
Man, better than I deserve. Excited to be on here with you. Before we get going with today's topic, dude, you've been zigzagging all over the world. Where all have you been lately? Where are you off to next?
Well, I started out, went to Charlotte a week ago Thursday for the documentary that the Peacock is doing on me. And then from Charlotte, I went to Dallas for SneakerCon.
How's
Of
that?
course, I went to Nick and Sam 3 times.
Of course.
Then I flew to LA for 3 days for the drop out there. We did some stuff with LA Times, and the cannabis line is really doing well out there. Then from there, I flew back to Chicago. We dropped the line in Naperville, in 2 cities in Illinois, Chicago and Naperville, which is a suburb. And then Saturday night, I flew to La Crosse with Misty. We did a fundraiser for Mongo with
awesome.
Gilbert Brown Foundation. What a great guy he is. And then came back, and I came back Sunday night. Headed out to Toronto today for Bet 99. Gonna rock and roll with Drake tomorrow night, and then coming home Thursday for 10 days.
Look at you, jet setting with superstars.
It's gonna be on my boat. I'm not budging.
Good for you. Good for you.
So a lot going on in the wrestling business, huh? God.
Tell me about SneakerCon.
It's unbelievable. They let you pick out. I was there for 3 hours, and the line it lasted longer than 3 hours, but it was a hard 3 hours. And it's just futuristic tennis shoes that you can order or they'll give to you. But if you have an odd size, you can't get them until after the first of the year.
Wow.
So Kelly got some shoes. Wendy got some shoes. We all went together. It was a good time.
Look at you guys, 3 peas in a pod. How's the Peacock documentary coming along? You guys have been working on that for quite a while.
Yeah, it's it'll either air. I'll find out this week whether it airs Thanksgiving or Christmas. They're trying to figure out. They're going to do a premiere and everything, so it'll be really nice. Of course, I'll give you all the information.
Well, stay tuned for that. I know you guys worked really hard on that with Tom Rinaldi, and it's going to be pretty special, man. It's going to be
just the fact that Tom Rinaldi's doing it makes it big time. I mean, it's a whole different dimension. And they asked me. I mean, I swear I've talked about everything. I made them promise me, and they have for the most part. You know that what it's not going to be edited. I mean, I gave them, I gave them the best of. They said it wouldn't be edited. They wanted to know about a lot of things that I haven't shared with anybody, and or if I have shared, it's probably just been within the family. But it's noteworthy that you know they were questions that they asked me that normally I might not answer that I answered. So I figure that if they want to go there, I can go there with them. Very personal.
Well, tell everybody about Ric Flair DRIP.
I will tell you this. You know what they told me that one of the best interviews was?
What?
Megan.
Oh, I'm sure.
I wasn't there. You were there for it, but they said that she was phenomenal. So I hope she didn't cuss me out too bad.
Oh, no, you survived. Of course, you're making this.
I never know about my girls, man. 99% of the time I got them, but when they drift off in that 1% world, I don't know. I can't find Ashley right now.
I don't think anybody can. Maybe even WWE, but you'll see her sooner.
I don't know. She's been going back and forth to Mexico and just healing up, but she looks like $1 million. I saw her. Where did I see her? I saw her at a signing about a month ago, and I'll see her again on the 12th of November in Queens, New York, for another Fitterman deal.
That's awesome. I'm glad you guys are able to do that. And
yeah,
I'm glad that the world is getting ready to hear about Ric Flair DRIP. Of course, Ric has a brand new cannabis line that's sweeping the nation. You can keep up with all things Ric Flair DRIP on Instagram at Ric Flair DRIP. Nearly 26,000 followers over there already. And of course, you can sign up for an email blast and find out when Ric Flair DRIP is going to be in your area at ricflairdrip.com. But the reason we're here today, Rick, is to talk about the good old days of professional wrestling. And not too long ago, we talked about you winning the WWF title from Randy Savage, your second world title win for Vince McMahon's WWF. It happened on September 1st. And now the following month in October. They're going to drop it to Bret the Hitman Hart. It'll be Bret's first world title win. But before we get into all of that, I want to ask, what are you thinking of all the news going around in wrestling these days? There's been lots of rumor and innuendo in wrestling. What's your take on current wrestling? What's getting your attention these days?
I guess the only thing, I mean, I watched, I missed the show last Tuesday. I watched it all last night. I mean, I'm happy for the guys. The ratings are good for the most part. I think, especially against Monday Night Football. I know SmackDown has been killing it. So, um, I feel like they're in a good place. I like the stuff with Finn Balor a lot. I'm a big fan of Finn Balor's. I didn't know that kid until I got to spend more time with him at Ashley's wedding, and I actually had been interviewed by his wife, who was a commentator on a Spanish TV station in Mexico years ago. So, really like him. I kind of like that faction they have.
Yeah.
Saw AJ last night. He's back. I get the Carl Anderson and
Luke Gallows. Yeah.
Luke Gallows are back, and Bray Wyatt are back. I'm a big fan of Bray's. He's back. So, my take on AEW is that, and you can help me out with this, but I like Tony's letting the guys faction the company. It seems like Jericho has his faction, and the Young Bucks, who are hotter than dynamite in the WWE, I sure would love to have, are doing their thing. Omega does his thing, and I that's kind of my take on it. I don't know. What do you see?
Well, I think a lot of people are curious about what's going to happen, after the quote unquote brawl out. I think Ace Steel's been released, and I think people are waiting with bated breath to see what really happens with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. A lot of people are speculating that maybe the investigation is over and they might show up on TV again this week. And I'm sure fans will be excited to see them back. But there's lots of question marks around CM Punk. There was a rumor last week that perhaps they're in negotiations with CM Punk to buy out his contract. That's not something that you hear about a lot in professional wrestling. And now that's led to speculation. Would CM Punk return to WWE one day? Now, of course, when he left before, maybe he had an issue with Hunter and certainly didn't see eye to eye with Vince McMahon or agree with some of the decisions he made. But Vince is gone. It's a new day in the WWE. Could you see CM Punk one day returning to WWE?
In this day and age, I can see anything. Yeah, I mean, that was like a very heated. I wasn't there during all that, and as I've said before, I only know him to say hi.
Right.
But that lawsuit with the doctor and all that, I don't know. That'd be. I don't know how the guys would handle that. I don't think he was that. I don't think he was a candidate for wrestler of the year when he was there. And I think he thought he was better than John Cena, which is not, which absolutely is not the truth as far as being the face of the company.
Well, when it comes to
But
merch and fandom, I mean, he did make a dent. I mean, he was up there.
oh
I'm
yeah,
not gonna say he was bigger than
I'm not denying that, but
Yeah.
I've heard the remark that he felt like he should have been John Cena. Just in my opinion, that wouldn't fly. So that was just my take on it.
You're
But
regarded as being one of the best guys on the stick, one of the best interviews in all of wrestling, and a lot of the younger fans really enjoyed CM Punk's verbal skills. Where would you rank CM Punk all time as a promo?
um, if I knew how he got it together, if I spent more time with him, I could give you a better opinion. If it's something they've handed him to memorize, I don't give it a I don't give it a D plus. If it's something that he's thought up on his own,
It usually was.
then I give him a B plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a good talker. MJF is a good talker.
Yeah, let's talk about MJF.
Yeah, I
MJF,
mean, I think he's a real good talker. They're trying to compare him to me. Well, that ain't gonna happen. But
lots of discussion about MJF that maybe last week his interview with with William Regal, and I know you said you didn't get a chance to see it. It was on Tuesday last week.
When they had 700,000 viewers.
Well, he was over 800,000. He was the highest rated segment. He
Okay,
usually
see,
is.
you know what? I just talking about what I saw what the average was.
Oh, sure. Well, now let's remind everybody they're preempted. They're normally on a Wednesday, so they went to WWE's night and kicked their ass. I mean, that's what happened.
Oh yeah,
Um,
hey, I'm, I'm just letting you know I do keep a track of the technicality part of it.
sure.
Um,
MJF though cut a really great promo. A lot of a
oh, I
great
heard it was
segment that
phenomenal.
a lot of people are talking about with Regal, but a lot of people want to know, is that step one of a babyface turn for MJF? He's been such a phenomenal heel. Do you think MJF could be an effective babyface?
Oh, I absolutely do. But I would. Here's my take on, and I'm a little different. I don't see why he has to be a babyface.
Agree.
If you've got a great heel, leave him alone.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What? Why turn him babyface? What, to get a rating? When in deep down the fan base loves him as a heel.
Yes, they do.
You love him as a heel.
Yes, I do.
I love him as a heel.
Mm-hmm.
Why make him a babyface? Because it's wrestling.
Well,
Wrestling 101. Get the hottest heel you can get him as hot as you can get him, and then turn him babyface. Wow, it
it's
makes no
kind of
sense. I would leave him as a heel all day long. And he's a real good worker and great talker, like you said. Um, as a matter of fact, I like Punk as a heel.
me too.
I do like Punk as a heel. When you can talk down to people and get away with it and
Yeah.
pull it off and make them mad, that's what it's all about. You know, who wants to be a good guy, and then because half the guys that are like, I think the Young Bucks are guys that they're like Jack Briscoe and Steamboat. They could never be heels in my eyes.
They've tried, but I'm with you. People still want to cheer 'em.
Ah, they're handsome, they're young, they're great workers. Um, and like Jack Briscoe, I mean, Jack had to work heel in territories that he traveled around in, but how do you take a handsome Cherokee Indian? You know what I mean? Or like Ricky Steamboat. And Steamboat, you know how much respect I have from him, the greatest babyface of all time. And I don't think they ever thought about it. And I'm glad they didn't, because he just wouldn't be a heel.
Right.
I didn't like Sting as trying to be a heel with the NWO. Sting is just an outright pure babyface, and he has earned that reputation and that respect. He's a great friend of mine, and I just see him as an icon, babyface,
Right.
iconic babyface rather. But wrestling's different now. They jump around a lot. I mean, they take good performers and they change their I guess the word would be their gimmick around. Look at Seth Rollins. He'd been 10 different things.
Right.
You know what he was the best at? Being the architect. Because he's really strong and technically in the ring. But since then he's been, I don't even know I can't even keep track of all of it.
Well, it's been
And,
a
and
lot.
I know why it is. It's all to sell merchandise.
Right.
So I saw where he compared himself to Roman Reigns. I don't think that's even close, but I mean, when you start talking about yourself in the same light as Roman Reigns, and then you look over your shoulder and you got AJ Styles and Randy Orton standing there. I don't know. He's not even close.
We've got a big show coming up over in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
It's going to be Crown Jewel. Roman Reigns, you brought him up. He's going to be in there with Logan Paul. Logan Paul, of course, has been a YouTube megastar and fought Floyd Mayweather a few years ago. These Paul brothers really know how to get attention for themselves. As a matter
Yes.
of fact, his younger brother, Jake Paul, is going to be fighting Anderson Silva on pay-per-view this Saturday night, the
Yeah, I
29th.
know. I talked to both of them last week. They FaceTimed me.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what do you think of Logan Paul mixing it up in WWE? Is that
I
good for
think he's done a hell
WWE?
of a job.
I do too.
I think he's done great. I mean, the stuff he did with the Miz, I didn't anticipate him being that good. Those kids are good athletes.
Yes.
My only advice to Jake Paul would be, don't call out Mike Tyson.
It's actually probably good advice for anybody, not just
Anderson Silva, okay. I like Anderson. I know him personally, but I wouldn't want to mess with Mike Tyson. I see Mike all the time. that that might be more than he can chew.
Jake Paul is even calling out in the pregame show, if you will, like the countdown for his big pay-per-view with Anderson Silva, saying when he's done with Anderson Silva and he shocks the world, which remains to be seen this Saturday on pay-per-view, that he wants Canelo or, can't believe this is real, Conor McGregor. How do you think Jake Paul would fare against one of those guys?
Conor McGregor, I think he could handle. I don't know about Canelo.
Nobody can handle Canelo.
Yeah, I don't mean it's because it's not. It's Conor can't use the wrestling skills. He can't use the submissions.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like Anderson Silva. I think he'll beat Anderson Silva because yeah, I think Anderson is more, from what I've seen of him, is more of a wrestler, submission type guy. But it takes a lot of balls to do what they're doing. To walk off the inner tube, or walk off the strength of their YouTube and internet connections and actually pull this stuff off, I think is great.
Totally agree.
Good for the business, and I hope they're getting paid right. It's like I'll tell you who I never thought would be that good.
Well, we're going to watch the match, but before we do, we want to remind everybody about Wooooo Wings. It's a real thing. The Nature Boy himself has his own virtual restaurant concept. You've got legendary flavors for World Championship wings. Just look up Wooooo Wings on your Uber Eats or Postmates app. They're now open in Nashville, San Antonio, Jacksonville, Huntsville, Tuscaloosa. A bunch of new locations signed up coming your way very soon. But Wooooo Wings is looking
Fixing to take over the state of Florida.
Let's do it. We're looking to partner with existing restaurants in major metro areas. So tell your favorite sports bar or local restaurant that you want Wooooo Wings in your town, and just visit RicFlairWings.com for more information on how to become a partner. That's Ric Flair Wings for your restaurant partners who would like to be a Wooooo Wings. But you can order right now: Nashville, San Antonio, Jacksonville, Huntsville, Tuscaloosa. Just look up your Postmates app or your Uber Eats app, and there it is. The only chicken wings worthy of carrying the name of the 16-time world champion.
Wings.
Wooooo Wings. There you go.
And the kid of the he's on game day now.
Oh, Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee was great in the ring.
Yes.
I mean, to the point where I was just amazed that this kid could practice. It just shows you what kind of an athlete he was, and he's a huge addition on game day. I think I love him out there. Oh, by the way.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Oh my God. How did why didn't we open the show on a hot take?
I was ready for it last week.
On your guy, Bryce Young, who needs to win the Cy Young again. I'm sure he will. Throws for 455 yards, 4 TDs, no interceptions, and you get beat by Tennessee. Question mark?
Oh no, I'm listening. I'm waiting for
I'm asking you a question.
What was the question? I didn't hear a question.
I said Bryce Young,
right?
Great quarterback that did play against Tennessee.
No doubt.
Threw for 455 yards.
Yep.
4 TDs.
Mm-hmm.
No interceptions.
Right.
How did Alabama get beat?
Well, we missed field goal. We muffed a punt. We had 29 penalties. On and on and on. I'm curious, what's the Steelers' record this year? Do you know what the Steelers' record is this year?
Listen, I'm rolling. I committed. I signed early this year.
I'm with Michigan. 2-5. Are the Steelers 2-5, Rick? Is that a fact? Are they 2-5?
Yeah.
Did they beat the fuck out of Tom Brady just 2 days ago? Did they just dog walk Tom Brady? The 2-5 Steelers.
No, that wasn't the Brady. That was the Panthers. The Panthers, the 1-5 Panthers, walked over Tom Brady.
Oh, they did too. Yeah, you are correct.
I'm on top of Tom. Here's the deal. When Tom's up to it, Ty Domi's flying down here, and me and Tampa Tom.
Oh,
Ty Domi are gonna Nate.
Normally you're the guy with wingman, but I feel like in Tampa you might actually be a wingman. Are you just going to be in the Arn Anderson position, just walking right behind Tom, just looking for the
Exactly.
cast offs. Yeah.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, Arn walked alongside me. Let's not ever assume that I just led the way. I had companionship.
Four horsemen, baby. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, but Arn never walked behind me.
Wait, is that the deal? You, Ty Domi, and
We
Tom
busted
Brady
the
are
door open together.
so you guys are like the new you, Ty Domi, and Tom Brady are the new Tampa Horsemen?
And we're gonna throw Joe and Dino in there too,
Okay, yeah. We should make
because they
Dino
know
the
where to
JJ.
take Tom.
Oh gosh. Let's move on before we get everybody in
Hey,
trouble.
and listen. When Tom's in the right mindset and he's not gonna let, I mean, to me, Tom Brady is the guy. I've only been around him twice, but if anybody in the world could be a prick, it would be him.
Mhm.
He is the nicest human being I've met at his level in life, of his status, which is unparalleled as far as athleticism, or put it in athletic accomplishments. How about that? Not athleticism, but accomplishment. 7 rings, 7. Some players play their whole career and don't have one. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So how do you ever bet? And by the way, he's not playing bad. It's the defense. He can't catch the ball. He threw Mike Evans, right? Now, if you
I
didn't see that, if Mike Evans catches that ball, the game's a totally different game.
my apologies on saying that the Steelers beat the Bucks. They did, but the Panthers beat them too. I just can't keep up. Sort of
I
like
know, I know. They're 3 and 4.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Well,
the good thing about it, we have I think 8 more games to go. Don't be cutting the season short on me.
we're gonna have a lot of fun talking about Bret Hart. That is still our topic today. I can't wait to watch this match with you. But before we do, something pretty big happened in the professional wrestling world, and you and I think a lot of this guy personally. And we haven't talked about it, but I feel like we should. Our great friend Kevin Nash suffered a loss that nobody should ever have to do, and unfortunately, it's something you and Jerry Lawler are all too familiar with. He lost his son Tristen, just 26 years old. It's
Yep.
hard to believe that that happened just 1 week ago. And I know you've had a chance to speak to Kevin. I don't
Yes.
need to know anything that you told him, but I am just curious.
No, I just shared with him that, and I don't, I guess I heard that he talked about me on his podcast.
Positively, yes, sir.
Yeah, and we talked and we did. I just, I was in a different place. I mean, he's been with his wife forever, and all the only thing I said to him was that you're you're never going to get over it.
Hmm.
You just have to figure out how to deal with it, and dealing with it the way I did, by just completely shutting down and drinking for 5 straight years, didn't work out. Didn't do anything.
Right.
I was already at odds with Beth, and my advice to him was just, hang on to your wife as tight as you can, and don't, don't throw blame at each other, or just, there's no way to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Reed was 25, his son was 26 years old. I mean, they're just
Unbelievable.
starting their life.
Yes.
So, and I've only met Tristan a couple times, and well, what a great kid. So, I don't know. I hope I said something to encourage him. I was actually surprised that he reached out to me, but and of course I sent him a note. And I didn't do anything on just making a post or anything, 'cause I just think that sometimes that's
Right. Yeah.
overrated.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about him. It'll, and not only that, it happened on the eve of
Scott Hall's birthday. Yeah. Yeah.
Scott Hall's birthday. Scott, so I mean, it was a double whammy for him, because I don't think he'd recovered from the loss of Scott yet. So it just shows what a great friend he was to Scott, and 'cause Scott could be problematic, and Kevin never left his side. I've never heard Kevin say anything negative about Scott, except I wish wishing him well, stuff like that. And after all those years, it's hard to find friends like that. So I got nothing but respect for him.
Well,
I wish
certainly
him the best.
thoughts and prayers for the entire Nash family. We think a lot of Kevin Nash around these parts, and never had the good pleasure of meeting his wife, but heard a lot of great stories from Kevin about her, and
Yeah, she's beautiful.
just thinking about them, and just I know it's almost cliche to say thoughts and prayers, but just send some positive vibe, folks, no matter what your belief system is. I hate to hear that there's been some folks who took this as an opportunity to kick Kevin about his political views or whatever like that. Have some freaking humanity. Like,
You give me an example. I didn't hear that.
well, he talked about on his podcast how people just piled hate on about whatever they disagreed with Kevin on and would just blow up his phone with all kinds of negativity. And it's like, dude, can we not just be a good person
Oh, I
for a
can't
little
believe.
while?
Well, I can believe that. Are you kidding? These people that God,
It's
they just wake
unimaginable.
up every day miserable in their own personal life, and all they want to do is say something negative about you, especially if you're somebody of any notoriety. They hate it. They're jealous,
Well, I
flat
just,
out jealous. They don't have a life, or they couldn't keep up with you. I mean, it's you know what I'm talking about. You know, you're successful. You know what I'm talking about.
well, my hope is that Kevin and his wife find some peace and contentment, because boy, they're just going through maybe the most unimaginable tragedy of all, and we're pulling
It
for 'em.
is.
So,
It is the most unimaginable tragedy of all.
well, let's try to end the show on
And
a
I
high.
just want to tell you something too, which I haven't had a chance to voice on the air. Um, you sent Misty that check. We're talking about things
Oh,
of
for
like
Mongo,
more
yeah, yeah, money
noteworthy
for Mongo.
than wrestling. And Misty, she cried for 2 days,
That's awesome.
all from the good thought. That was your idea to put that together. And I'll just be honest with you, I'm sorry and disappointed for anybody that's been in his life that hasn't gone to see Steve
Yeah.
because he's going through hell. And if you were in his life at some point in time and he meant anything to you, I think you guys, anybody that's listening to this that cares, you know, you need to, if you have the opportunity, reach out to him because boy, he's going through hell.
Well,
And
I was
anyway, that check you gave her, she cried for 2 days.
that's
That's
awesome.
all because of Conrad Thompson.
Well, I don't know about that. It was lots of donations over at moneyformongo.com. We had a lot of support.
You organized it, you get the credit.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
No, it's the truth.
Let's jump into while we're here today. We're talking about Bret the Hitman Hart. I think everybody loved Bret as a tag team champ with Jim the Anvil Neidhart, part of the Hart Foundation. And boy, what a match he had to become Intercontinental Champion at SummerSlam 91, beating Mr. Perfect, one of the all time greats. And he solidified himself as one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. But man, it doesn't really feel real until you become the champ. And you are lucky enough to be the guy to help make that possible. Let's pick up where we left off. You won the world title in Hershey, Pennsylvania on September 1st. We've already covered that, where you beat Macho Man Randy Savage in a match that was not so nice that Vince made you do it twice.
Yep.
And then you're going to have I believe, your very first match the very next night with The Undertaker. You wrestled The Undertaker a handful of times there in 1992. I think 5 singles matches, maybe.
Hmm.
Uh, what was your first impression of being in there with the big man one on one? We know it's going to be a big match at WrestleMania, but boy, that's like a decade later. Here in early in 92, early in
Oh, it
under
was great. I've always had great chemistry with him. But I mean, it's not even arguable. He's the best big man ever. I
yes.
mean, he's right there with Brody.
You
And I think overall he's better than Brody. But Brody was a big guy like he is, and Brody could do a lot of stuff that people didn't realize. They didn't look at the athleticism. When you wrestle a guy for an hour, you get to know him real well, and he was a good athlete. But as far as Undertaker goes, man, and for walking on the ropes and all that stuff, and really making that character so believable, so strong. I've said it before. We'd pull up to buildings in Europe, and there'd be 1,000 Undertakers standing in line to get in. I'm not
wow.
kidding you. I mean, the merchandise that he has sold and the love they have for that character, man. I hope that my documentary comes out to be half as good as the last ride. I thought that was fantastic.
It really was. You
I
wind up
look forward to seeing him on the road, which I get to once in a while for signings when he can't get away from me. But I can't tell you how much it meant for me and for you and everybody that he came to
your
the
match, yeah.
last match with Bret and Mick. How cool is that, right?
Well, super cool.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you what it meant to the rest of the roster, you know, like Jay Lethal. I mean, that's imagine you're in the main event wrestling your wrestling hero, and in the front row watching your match, The Undertaker, Bret Hart, and Mick Foley. Who can say
Yeah.
that? That's unbelievable. Oh, and Kid Rock. Let's not forget him. He was
Yeah, let's not forget the kid.
you actually work a match at the Madison Square Garden on September 11th. There's 9,000 fans here. You're working with The Undertaker, and you even went on Regis and Kathy Lee the day before to hype the show up at Madison Square Garden. What was your experience like on Regis and Kathy Lee?
Oh, it was great. Regis Philbin was a great wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there just 9,000 in attendance at the Garden for that?
Yeah. 92 was a down year for wrestling everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, I never got over in New York
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
because I didn't have enough TV.
Mm,
I mean, I was just coming off Turner TV, which didn't have any saturation. Now in Ohio and Pennsylvania, totally different.
right.
But when there's no TV, they don't know you. So I've got no problem saying I don't think I ever really got over in the New York territory. I mean, I drew money with Hogan everywhere we went, but it wasn't like record breaking business. Does that make sense?
Right.
I probably was in a position and drew more money the second time I was there, even though I was in my 50s, I was 56 when I wrestled Taker. 54. No, 56. Anyway, 2008, right? Or
2002, WrestleMania 18.
2002, WrestleMania 18.
That's right.
Yeah. So 6 years. So I was 53. I was 59 when I wrestled Sean. And I was just thrilled, but it's one of those things where I was still just beat down psychologically, and I didn't feel like I could pull it off, right? And I couldn't get to Hunter because he was on the other side of the building and all the people that I just lean on. And I got out there, and once I got my second win, which is my biggest problem because my heart rate has been so low from all those hour Broadways over the years. Once I got my second win, and he said, let's try this again, kid. Threw me in, I made it over. Once he kicked me off the apron, I got my blade out. I was home free. Everything was great from that point on.
I love it.
You couldn't have told me that 10 minutes before the match to save my life.
So you after you have this match at Madison Square Garden, believe it or not, you're off to Yokohama, Japan to work for the War promotion on September 15th. You're going to be here working for Tenru, and you're going to be working on top against him in front of 12,000 fans. It's a 2 out of 3 falls match. What do you remember of this trip? A, working for the WAR promotion, and then
Well,
this.
I went with Taker, right?
I don't recall.
I'm pretty sure I did. No, anyway, it was great. I went with Taker and somebody else.
The environment in Japan, working with Tenru. Any stories about either of those you can share with us?
Oh, just God, I loved working with Tanner. He was great, and we trained him in Charlotte in '76.
Oh wow, so you had
Yeah,
history.
yeah. See, Tenru and Fujinami both came and trained in Charlotte in the '70s,
Mhm.
so I knew them both real well. And while they were visiting in Charlotte, I made sure they had friends.
I love you for that. I know exactly. I'm
You
picking
can't
up.
be a man. You can't be a lonely man in a lonely town
No,
without friends.
belly warmer. I get it.
That's how I met Muda. They said introduce Muda to Atlanta. I said hell yeah.
My gosh. There's a party in Nashville, and you're invited. Nashville's first of its kind live event is coming to the Woolworth Theater, and believe me, you haven't seen anything like this before. Shiners is the hottest new show in Nashville that blends Cirque, Broadway, and comedy into one electrifying production. Located in downtown Nashville at the brand new Woolworth Theater, Shiners has a star-studded cast featuring Chuck Wicks and Laura Osnes, along with the most mind-blowing talent from the Cirque world. You can catch a live Shiners performance at Woolworth Theater on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. General admission and VIP tickets are on sale now at shinersnashville.com, or bring your whole crew and watch the show from your very own VIP box. Enjoy some delicious signature cocktails and ice cold beer while you watch the show. You won't want to miss this if you live in or near Nashville, or maybe you're headed there soon for some fun. Get your tickets today for Shiners at shinersnashville.com. So you and Warrior have your first set of matches together starting on September 19th. You do a double shot in Auburn Hills, Michigan, and in Indianapolis. Mr. Perfect is here to help with a DQ finish, but both of the shows failed to draw 3,000 fans.
Yeah.
It just feels like you and Warrior on top in Michigan, you and Warrior on top in Indianapolis. But that feels like, hey, man, that's a big card. 2,600 fans in one, 2,350 in another. Could you feel like,
Do you have to remind me of those days?
well, it just feels like the wheels are coming off. Are you missing Atlanta? Are you missing Charlotte? Are you missing Jim Crockett Promotions and WCW here? Second guessing your decision.
I don't think I was missing anything. I was just aware of the fact that I wasn't drawing money,
Right.
which I can't be any more honest than that. You know, when you're not drawn and you're on top, there's no worse feeling than letting the guys down on the undercard.
You work with Warrior in Duluth, and then you do TV tapings in Canada and Winnipeg, and then in Brandon, and then you head over to Germany and the UK for a 9-day tour. You're going to start working mostly with Randy Savage, but you even have a match against Tito Santana in Germany. There's always been a discussion, and boy, I don't know how real this is, but there's been a lot of debate over the years that perhaps when Vince was looking to go a new direction, if he didn't go with Bret, he might have went with Tito. And I guess Tito has been mentioned as being on the short list of maybe could be the next guy. Do you think Tito could have had a run on top? Would Tito have been good to carry the torch for a bit for WWE?
I can't say that he wouldn't have been. Tito was a hell of a worker. I wrestled Tito in Texas before he was with WWE with the Von Erichs.
Right.
So I thought he was a hell of a worker. I've seen him just recently too. He's a great guy. I think he would have probably done very well. I just think that Bret kind of sat. I think what hurt Bret until he got in that position was he sat in a tag team scenario for so long. It wasn't until Sean got away from what was his partner's name?
Marty Jannetty.
Yeah, got away from Marty that they realized the brilliance and greatness of Shawn Michaels.
Right.
Because sometimes when you're in a tag team, you don't get to see just how good somebody is as an individual.
Right.
And I think when Bret finally got away from Jim for a while, they went, "Holy shit, he's really good." You know what I mean? Because the light is solely on you and not your partner. You're not sharing the light, and that I would have to say that Bret was, to me, Bret was the right pick. But I think Tito could have done well too.
While you're on this European tour, I want to mention two shows in particular. You're going to work main events in Kiel, Germany, and then again in Birmingham, England, against Bret Hart.
Yes.
In Kiel, you guys go 34 minutes and 33 seconds. In Birmingham, you guys go 25 minutes and 16 seconds. And Meltzer would write that the 35-minute match, the one in Germany, he heard was a 4.5-star match. And a lot of people believe that Bret was so over in the UK and Germany and just all of Europe. And that match was so good that maybe that's what swung Vince's decision in his favor. What do you remember?
I don't think Bret and I ever had a bad match.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Bret was obviously was good. I mean, working with Bret and Randy over in Europe was phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, over there, I think I was probably a bigger card there than I was in the States for for the WWE. Because basically, I don't even know about it had anything to do with me. They just sold out. WWE was hot,
Right.
as they are right now. Or anytime they go back to Europe now, it's sold out.
That's always been interesting to me. It feels like when the American market is soft, like
Mhm.
years ago when it felt like TNA for whatever reason just couldn't freaking give away tickets. Whenever they would go run across the pond, boy, fans were rabid for them. Why do you think that is?
Because it's a phenomenal. It's the greatest show on the road. I think
Yeah.
it used to be Byron and Bailey, but man, it's been the WWE for 30 years. I
Well,
mean,
let's
and when
talk.
Hulk was champion in the 80s, they sold out every night. And when Steve was there, and when The Rock was there, Hunter was Taker and Sean, they sold out every night. And I think the thing that made a big difference too was to go from Hulk wrestling, 5 minutes which was what the way they wanted it. He wasn't doing anything or anything more or less than they wanted. And after a while, because a Hulk could pull that off, the Warrior could for a while, but not nearly to the level that Hulk did. But
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, they started looking at the comparison and saw that we were wrestling long matches in the main event, and it was a more competitive main event. And so they started doing that, and I think that's where Brett came right in. And he and Sean, and I know when Sean was champion, they said he was wrestling in 30-minute matches every night. And to be honest with you, people didn't like that from me and when I first got up there, but I said, Pat, I can't wrestle 5 minutes. I can't even get warmed up in a 5-minute match.
Right.
So I hope that if I had anything if I provided any type of a difference, it was that I would argue with Pat about the length of the match and saying that I thought the fans deserved more from me, a guy my size. I wasn't the overpowering 300-pound guy built like a Greek god, like Hulk or the Warrior or Luger or a lot of those guys. But um, I think that I just I think it was just a great time and a great opportunity for Brett, and he took the opportunity. He took his ball and ran with it.
Yes, he did. He had great matches with you in the main event in Germany again on October 2nd and 3rd. And then you guys come back to the States. You're going to wrestle again in Los Angeles in the main event against Brett
Yep.
in front of 7,300 folks. That happens on October 10th. But boy, something bad happens on October 8th. It's in Phoenix, Arizona. Charles Barkley is in the crowd for this, and you had this to say.
Front row.
In Phoenix, the Ultimate Warrior gave me a suplex and messed it up. I landed on my head, dislodging a chip in my inner ear and upsetting my sense of balance. But I didn't realize that anything was wrong at first. Charles Barkley, the basketball star, was sitting in the front row, and I wanted to show off for him. So I told the Warrior to throw me into the corner for an upside down flip. And that's when everything started spinning wildly. I completely missed the turnbuckle and flew out onto the floor. I stood up and fell down again. Fortunately, before the Warrior could put his hands on me, Earl Hebner stopped the match. I couldn't figure out what happened. I wondered if I'd had a stroke. I was okay if I was standing up or tying up with my opponent, but once I was on my back for an extended period, I became dizzy. One thing was obvious: I was in no condition to be in the ring. How scary is this?
Um, oh, it scared the hell out of me because I didn't know what it was.
Right.
I felt great, so I didn't feel sick at all. I just what happens is that chip and that fluid in your ear is like motor oil, and it takes when that chip broke off, it would take several seconds, like 5 or 6 seconds for it to come back, and where I could get my equilibrium back. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it scared the hell out of me. So I flew back. No, I think that's when they sent me the next day to wrestle Brett, right?
Yeah. So what happens is you wrestled Warrior here on the 8th.
Yeah.
You're going to wrestle again in Houston against the Ultimate Warrior on the 9th. And then come the 10th, you're going to be in the LA Sports Arena. and there's 7,300 fans there, and you guys go 23 minutes and 45 seconds. But what's interesting is you push the referee doesn't signal for the bell until he regains his senses. By that point, Bret has you in the sharpshooter, and fans believe that Bret is the champ. And the local news in LA even reports that Bret won the world title. Now, that doesn't actually happen. On the 11th, you're going to wrestle in Alberta, a town called Red Deer up in Canada, and it's you and Bret in the main event. But the next day, the 12th, so 4 days after the inner ear thing, which happened on the 8th in Phoenix, we're in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It's October 12th, and that's where you're going to drop the title to Bret the Hitman Hart. 26 minutes and 29 seconds is the match time. Take us through that day. Like you're feeling like, man, I just can't keep doing this. You show up to TV and they break the news to you, or do you offer it, or how does that come to be?
Well, they knew I had to go home.
Right.
I had to. I mean, I just couldn't. It's really hard to wrestle when you can't get up and down.
Sure.
Didn't hurt my back. It didn't hurt. I didn't hurt at all. I just couldn't. When I laid down in bed at night, when I got up to my feet, like to use the restroom, it took me 5 seconds before I could stand up. So if I'm taking a bump, which I did, all
Yeah.
kinds of bumps, it took me. I had to position myself, which I explained to Bret, and he understood. I had to get up at my speed to do something else.
Yes.
So the match just sucked. That's what I feel so bad about it. Bret and had all these really good matches, and then the night I give him the title, I'm at like 20%.
Right.
So, but I just talked to him the other day on the anniversary of that, and he sent me the nicest text saying that was the biggest day of his career. So if he felt good about it, that's all that matters.
Meltzer had this to say: Bret Hart captured the WWF title in a last-minute decision from Ric Flair in approximately 25 minutes on October 12th in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, at the TV tapings, amidst much WCW-like booking on the fly chaos. Hart won the title by submission using the sharpshooter after a suplex and what was said to have been an excellent match. The title change was a decision made within the last week because the WWF needed to get a babyface, and Hart in particular, over big time in a hurry because of the uncertainty as to the long term future of the Ultimate Warrior, and short term because the Undertaker isn't expected back after undergoing shoulder surgery until mid December. Hart and a few others apparently knew about it midweek, although I'm not sure Flair was one of the others. Now, talk to us about this. You've obviously, he being Dave Meltzer, doesn't have the information about your inner ear situation, but we know this is October, and by January, so not too long after that, the bloom is off the rose. You're going to lose a loser leaves match, and you're out of the WWF. Were you feeling like it was heading that direction before the inner ear problem, or do you think the inner ear problem just sort of sped it up? Or talk me through that.
Okay, give me the time frames again.
So you hurt your inner ear on October 8th. 4 days later, and that's in Phoenix. 4 days later in Canada, you dropped the title to Bret.
No, I
This is
got that, but
October,
give me the loser leave town. What day was that?
January. So October to January, it feels like there's this lame duck period
Yeah,
in
I
there.
was off.
Yeah. I mean, I get
No,
you.
let me tell you a story. So I go to the Mayo Clinic.
Yep.
My dad, who was a doctor in Minnesota. I go to Duke because I live in North Carolina, and neither one of them can figure out how to treat this thing in my ear. So by chance, I met another doctor because I just had to get this fixed. And the guy said, it's probably going to be a year. Well, I had Lloyd's of London then. I think I've told you this story.
Yes.
And I had paid all that money and I'd never written off the premium so that when I got, if it didn't get better, I get 750,000 cash tax free. I know because I didn't write off the premium. Okay. So the day I'm supposed to fly home to Minneapolis, I was still going on the road with them periodically. The day before, I got up, and it was gone. And not to change it, the whole subject around, I went, what the hell? I was gone. I laid back down, got up, was gone. I went over and hit my head on the wall 4 times. Lay back down, it was gone. So I called my dad and he said to me, karma, you're not gonna tell him because nobody would know.
Right.
All I had to do was go pick up a 750. And my dad said the karma will come back on you. So I didn't get it. And I went back to work. And then Vince said to me, I'm going to go young. He said, hey, but Watts has been calling me every day. Do you want to go back? And I said, if you're going to go young, and I won't, you wanted me to do something I didn't want to do, which would be like a secondary. You wanted to put me in a secondary position. I wasn't ready for that. So I'll be damned if I didn't. I left gladly and let put Kurt over it, which I was proud to do.
Yeah.
Fly back, and by the time I get there, Watts has been fired. Ole's the booker. Ole looks at me. I walk in the office. He goes, "What the fuck are you worth to me after doing a job on national TV last night?" I said,
Wow.
"Motherfucker, I'm worth more to you than any 10 guys you got here on the roster. If you look at the houses here lately, I walked next door to Bob Drew's office and I said, Bob, it's me or him right now. And he said, who can replace him? And I said, well, there's a guy downstairs. And that's the guy's honest truth. And that's how Eric got in there.
What a rib on you.
Eric can tell you any fabricated story he wants. He got the job because I recommended him.
Can't help it. You just do it to yourself, don't you?
I sure did. And then on top of that, I went and got Hogan and Savage and oh God. And I had 80 people mad at me because we hired half the WWE to make Hulk happy. And of course that pushed our guys out. So everybody was pissed. And all I did was recommend the guy get a job.
What a rib.
I can only look back and laugh at it now.
It's interesting, this match with Bret. It doesn't ever air on TV. You know, it's at a TV taping, but it
Probably
doesn't
not
air
that
on
good.
TV. It winds up being a part of the Coliseum home video release, Smack 'em Whack 'em, which is probably a movie that Rick made in his hotel room once upon a time. I can't believe you're gone just 3 months after this, man. I mean, it feels like this might be the beginning of the end of your WWF run. We got lots of questions about this. Let's jump into it. WWE Master wants to know, did WWE want to do a WrestleMania 9 main event between you and Bret? Like, do you think that would have possibly been the main event had you stuck around for WrestleMania 9, you and Bret?
No. He was going to go younger.
Do you know what you said secondary position? Did he lay out any ideas for you that you remember and thinking, I don't want to work with a program like that?
No, he just said, I'm going to go younger. And I'm not going to feature you as a main eventer. That's all I had to hear.
I got you.
Because I knew I could work better than 99% of the guys he wanted to put ahead of me.
Jared Hawkins wants to know, if the decision wasn't made to go with Bret here, who else would you have liked to drop the title to? So now remember, the Undertaker's on the shelf, so he's not an option. But if Bret, for whatever reason, was injured or he was out, but you've got to come off the road, you've got to drop the belt, who would you have liked to done the honors for?
That was there on the roster then? Like a guy like Mike or Ted DiBiase.
Oh, wow, that could have been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ted and I never got to work while I was there because we were both heels. But when Ted was a Babyface in Louisiana, Ted and I tore the joint down. We tore it down in St. Louis. He's a hell of a hand. Ted DiBiase could have been the NWA champion. It was between me and him.
Do you think he was just, timing is so important to your success in business or sports or entertainment or whatever. Don't you think if Ted was 10 years older, Ted would have been NWA champ? It just feels like he was a more old school Briscoe Harley style performer, in my opinion.
That's hard to answer. I think Ted's a little bit younger than I am, right?
I just think even a guy like Arn Anderson, who I believe is younger than you, but
Yeah,
Arn just feels
Arn's
more
10 years
old
younger
school.
than me.
Arn's just old school to me. Like if he was, 10 years before the Nature Boy, he could have been the man. But boy, when
Yeah.
all that pomp and circumstance comes out of that big robe, well, it's a new ball game after that, is it not?
Well, I felt like it was.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
I'm not gonna argue that with you.
Here's a great question here, and I never really thought about this, but 80s wrestling fan on Twitter did. Piper, Hogan, Sid, Warrior, and Davey Boy all left the WWF in 1992. The high point of talent from when you won the title at the 92 Rumble had changed dramatically by the end of the year. Did the departures cause you to consider an excellent plan by the time you dropped the belt to Bret? Probably not. But let me just say, think about that now. You look at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, man, that is a drastically different roster. So I know that you said, oh, I wasn't drawing as champion. But man, the company, it really is a new company by this point. It's just the guys that we've grown up with in the more recent years, they're all gone.
Oh, I know. I mean, it wasn't just me, but I'm still gonna tell you that as a champion, it's your responsibility to put the asses in seats. I mean, I feel that way.
Isn't it also true though that the company, by and large, the whole territory, if you will, had been what Bruce Pritchard would call the babyface territory. They
Yes.
wanted a
Yes.
Bruno Sammartino or a Hulk Hogan, and then
Yes.
we're just gonna have a heel factory, right?
Exactly.
So maybe that's part of it. Let's jump into another question here from Bryant. In Rick's opinion, what does he think made Brett such a good in-ring performer?
Repetition, being legitimately tough, and he had a lot of self confidence.
It felt like to me as a fan, he did all of the little stuff. Like
Yeah.
lots of guys got thrown into the turnbuckle, but they didn't get thrown into the turnbuckle like Bret Hart got thrown into the
No.
turnbuckle.
Okay. So, what? Yeah, you're right about that being thrown in the turnbuckle. What Brett did, and this is what guys hate to hear this, but what made Brett so good is he's technically sound.
Mhm.
He can punch. He can kick. God, I mean, I appreciate the shout out from Jericho last week about the trilogies and all this stuff and that. But I mean, there's a time when I just got to say thank you for the shout out. But if you want to compare Daniel Bryan and Chris Jericho to Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair, I just don't have it. You don't see Steamboat when I'm missing clotheslines from 2 feet away.
Oh.
And when the biggest bump after these guys give you these top rope that have a corona, what are they called?
Hurricane Rana.
Hurricane, right? Each one give them, which are huge bumps that I never took. I mean, I've taken them obviously, but the only and they sell it right appropriately. But the biggest sell of all time during the match was when Daniel Bryan got pushed into the referee. He laid there for 15 minutes. I mean, do you remember the match?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we agree to disagree. I think Bryan Danielson's one of the best wrestlers of all time. So I don't think it's possible for him to have a
But
bad.
I didn't say no. That didn't. I'm not arguing about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what I'm saying is that there's a reason why they talk about me and Steamboat 40 years later.
For sure.
Are they going to talk about that match 40 years from now?
I don't think so.
Huh?
No, sir.
No. I mean, I appreciate the shout out from Chris and all that, but I mean, do they have good matches? Yeah, but it's they're fundamentally, man. I mean, the punching and the kicking, and if you look at it close up and compare it, I mean, you just can't. And these guys that just chop away at each other, it's like a Ric Flair chop fest,
Right,
and nobody sells it.
right.
I chop Steamboat, he goes down, but I'm hitting him a lot harder than those guys are hitting each other. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And that's where Brett was so solid. He was in there. He didn't miss. And I mean, I just give kudos to him, and it's not taking nothing away from Chris or Daniel Bryan. It can't. This is not a personal comment. It's what I think is it's what I believe to be the difference between good and great. And that's just my opinion. You have your opinion. It just if you technically your stuff is weak, then technically your work is weak.
Well, we mentioned Steamboat a lot. I want to mention he's wrestling his last match about a month from now. Tickets are on sale. You can still snag a front row seat if you're going to be in the Dorton Arena area. So be sure to check that out. Ryan wants to know, when you lost the title to Bret, you were feuding with Warrior, and it looked like he might be the one to take the title. Was that ever discussed?
To my knowledge, it was not. But I firmly believe that since you've gone over the history of everything, which makes you the best at what you do, that the matches that we had in Germany and that, I just really like Brett and I are two guys, and we never had to talk either.
Yeah.
He didn't ask me to talk. Randy, would write me a letter, as did Diamond Dallas Page and some other guys. I just couldn't do it.
Just listing out all the sequence of the match.
Yeah, and I thought, God, you guys, in Europe especially, it's so easy.
Right.
I mean, I went to Wrestle Edge one time, and the crowd was cheering me, and I'm supposed to be the heel. So
Right.
Edge turned. We didn't even talk about it. He just worked heel, cheered me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's because in Europe, you never get old. You
Mm,
become more revered.
I like
Over
that.
here, you can have one bad day, throw one bad pitch, and you're the worst player. And how old are you? They're picking on Brady. Brady is not playing bad football. Mike Evans can't catch.
Oh, okay. Chasing
Yeah, I'm
Wabbit.
standing up for Tom, baby.
Hey, he's the greatest of all time. Everybody knows it.
Yeah, you just can't throw you can't throw any disrespect at seven damn Super Bowl rings. And Rodgers cannot catch the ball that he's throwing to receivers. Jesus, how many balls can these guys drop?
Chasing Wabbits wants to know, anybody know what that big bump on Flair's back is just to the right of his spine? Is that from the plane crash? We get
That's
lots of
from the plane
questions.
crash.
Yeah. And you
Well, it's
never
not
really,
there anymore. I had it removed.
but you often would take those big bumps on your side as well. Were you just self-conscious about falling on your back
You
after the
know,
plane
I
crash?
never could take a flat back bump. I could, like on a tackle and that, but I just after crashing the airplane, I just started landing on my side. And why my left hip is still functional, I have no idea, but it is.
It shouldn't be. Damn it.
I know. I am the luckiest son of a bitch alive. Actually am. To see all my friends with knee replacements, hip replacements, shoulder replacements. I mean, I am the luckiest son of a bitch alive.
I think it's because you did some late night hip workouts too, but that's a story for another time.
Oh, God.
RCS
My
80.
wife my wife's never traveled with me.
Oh, well, that never stops you. Uh, RCS 88 wants to know, had you not had the ear injury, would you have had the title going into 1993? That's an interesting question
I
because
don't know
Survivor
the answer to
Series
that.
winds up becoming a tag match.
I think that because you just made light of something that I made me aware of something. I didn't realize that all those guys had left.
Yeah.
Plus Hulk had left, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Hulk had left, yeah. See, when Hulk left too, that's a huge void. And Taker was out. I forgot that. Maybe it wasn't all my fault.
It wasn't all your fault. How about that? But it is all
Well,
your
that's the
fault.
story. We're sticking to it.
Well, somebody used to come on TV once upon a time and they'd look around and they'd say, what's causing all this?
Yeah.
And we're going to ask ourselves that next week. We're going to be talking about, and I'm pretty pumped about this, Flair versus Funk from Clash of the
Oh
Champions.
man.
One of my all-time favorite matches. We're going to watch it here next week on the program. The infamous match, the New York Knockout, the I Quit match from Troy, New York. One of the all-time greats. I'll never get tired of watching Terry Funk or this match.
Yeah.
I'm pumped
Thank
about it,
you.
man. What do you remember about that one?
It's just me and Terry going at it. Terry let me hit him as hard as I could, and he hit me back just as hard. So anytime a guy would let me chop him, Taker had me on a 3 chop limit. Brett had me on a 4 chop limit.
I love it.
Steamboat, Sting, um, Terry. I mean, they didn't care, but I was on a limit with Taker, especially for a big match like WrestleMania. I think I got 4 chops in.
1989, arguably the best year of Rick's career. He had that incredible trilogy with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and this awesome feud with Terry Funk. We're going to
Yeah.
cap it off next week talking about New York Knockout. In the meantime, check us out. Leave us a 5-star review if you think we've earned it. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Follow Ric on Twitter, and I'm at Hey it's Conrad. Of course, you can keep up with the show at To Be the Man Pod. And if you're trying to introduce a Ric Flair fan to the podcast, maybe the best way to do it, tell them about our YouTube. You can like it, subscribe, turn on notifications. It's all free. It's youtube.com/Ric Flair. We'll be back next week talking all things Terry Funk right here on To Be the Man.
Literally, Terry Funk is one of the all-time greats. I hate the time that the Mount Rushmores and all that. I know that they're flattering in that, but boy, they leave out some of these great performers because people just don't remember them. But boy, Terry Funk was great.
We won't forget him next week.
Thank you, man. I hope you feel better.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week on To Be the Man.